Verse number 71. No one in this world remains free from becoming. In a state of sameness, this is said to be a beginningless play. To him who knows this which is unlimited as a whole, boundless happiness comes. Commentary. In the Bhagavad Gita, our life is described as that which is not known in the beginning, known in the middle, and which is not known again at the end. What we call life is something which comes along and passes through our range of vision, just like a film of incremental images being projected at a normal speed to make a movie. We see a set of movements which elicits an idea, and then it passes on to the next and the next. There are many theories about the past and the future. We can envisage the movement of time in two ways, either that the future is becoming the present and the present is passing into the past, or that the past is giving way to the present and the present is giving way to the future. In either case, we have a past which is beginningless, a future which is endless, and a present that is all we experience. The process of the movement of time is called becoming. If we look at the way in which new things come about, it's as though they were being born out of the unknown. A continuous birth of incidents, events, notions, ideas, and the like is taking place. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that birth is given to speech, mind, and the vital force, Vak, Manas, and Prana. The Vak is not only the articulated sounds produced by human beings, it also includes the sounds of the wind, the ocean, or any happening you come to know through sound. Manas is considered to be a medium to know what is happening in the so-called external world, as well as in the inner being. Sadness comes, the mind knows it. Happiness comes, mind knows it. The sun rises, the mind knows it. Anything that occurs as an external or internal event is known by the mind. When the mind is not present, none of it is known. The pranas or vital forces are considered to be what you breathe through your nose, down to your heart, and from there to the navel and back. The vital breath between the heart and the nostril is called prana, and that which is between the heart and the navel is called apana. In between and interlocking them is the vyana. The vyana is considered to be superior because it permits us to speak. When we are in the process of speaking, we don't have to say, "Wait a moment, let me breathe," in order to say the next word. Great orators and pedagogues can stand on platforms and go on talking for hour after hour, and they never need to stop for a breath. Why? Because Vyana is capable of regulating the prana and apana while they are speaking. There are other vital forces as well. Uddana is a stabilizing prana, extending from the toe to the crown of the head. Samana, supposed to reside in the belly, carries nourishment to all parts of the body. And the Upanishads add one more, Ana, which is all these put together. It integrates the Vak, Manas, and Prana, which make up the process of becoming as the known, what is desired to be known, and the unknown. Whatever is spoken is always known. The mind is always desiring to know. That is what keeps it moving all the time. It is not satisfied with what is already known. It says, "What next?" And then it goes in search of it. And even the best physiologist, who can describe the process of respiration in detail, does not know how his prana, vyana, or samana operate. He can only conjecture about them, since the whole realm of vital forces is unknown. It's paradoxical that that which gives us the greatest sense of objectivity in life is even more subtle than the subjective, because we don't know anything about it. The whole structure of the world of becoming is so fabricated that only a small part of it is revealed at any one time. There is a small part known, a search of greater or lesser intensity, and a vast unknown area. Narayana Guru makes 2 points in this verse. One is that we should know that life is a leela, a sport. And the other is that we should know this agave as a whole, altogether. These are the 2 saving factors. If you do not know that this is a leela, this partial knowledge can be very tormenting, and it can be a nightmare if you don't know it as a whole. Understanding this as sport relates to what may be called the non-self, while the whole has reference to the self. The whole panoply of life is played out between the duality experienced between the self and the non-self. This idea is made explicit in the opening chapter of Shankara's commentary on the Brahma Sutras, which are called a Moksha Shastra, a science of liberation. A friend was telling me the other day that we have screens before us so that we don't see what's going on in other people. We are partially blind in this sense, and it is this blindness that causes our misery. Shankara says the same thing. He is a great philosopher, so he put it in a big way. My friend put it in a very simple way. But to me, they are saying the same thing. There is partial blindness. We are cut off from reality, and to that extent we suffer. To remove this suffering, we should take away the screen. All the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible and the Quran are attempts through the spoken word to remove darkness from the mind and the still greater darkness perpetuated by the vital forces. You are trying to conquer the unknown by annexing more and more of it through the spoken word, which makes things known. You may not be able to know everything as a whole, agave, but at least you can know that it is like a sport. Imagine you know nothing about American football, and you see 22 huge people coming with pads and helmets on. Then they beat against each other, push one to the ground and jump on him. If you were in a community where no one had ever seen this, what would you think of it? You would think of it as the most horrid thing, and evil, the worst of all spectacles. But people go by the thousands with their families to watch this all the time. Or 2 people will go to an arena to punch each other's noses and make them bleed. Millions of dollars are spent to watch how they punch each other's noses for a few minutes. The audience is not terribly affected. They feel excited and happy about it because they know it's a sport. But if someone were to walk into our room and punch us, we would call the police and raise a big alarm. We might be terrified for the rest of our life by the possibility of another assault. So if you see it as a sport, it can take the shock out of it. Mountaineers routinely suffer tremendous hardships of dangerous avalanches, icy winds and storms, and thin air. We sympathize with people in Russia who are sent to Siberia, but they are not suffering a fourth of what those who climb Mount Everest do. But going to Siberia is not taken as a sport, it is taken as punishment. So the lesser suffering is considered terrible, and the greater is seen as an ecstatic accomplishment. It's all in the attitude of seeing it as a sport. And how do you take your tuberculosis as a sport? It can be done. There is a way of looking at it. Perhaps 90% of the diseases we play out are sport. We know inside that it is not as bad as we pretend it to be. We want to get attention, so we overdo the game a little. I suppose I shouldn't let out my secret while my doctor is here. I have to be very careful, otherwise the next time somebody calls him to report I'm having an emergency, he'll say, "Relax, the guru is just having a sport." In Carl Jung's Memories, Dreams and Reflections, he describes his first epileptic fit. He was attending the church where his father was a priest, when another young boy came up behind and pushed him and knocked him down. He could have immediately gotten up, but he wanted to show how mean the other boy was, so he just lay there. He pretended he couldn't get up, so that others would come and give him lots of sympathy. He created a gruesome feeling around him and reveled in it. His psyche learned the advantage of being sick and the kind of attention it brings. He started having frequent epileptic fits, and everyone sympathized with him. One day he overheard his father talking with another friend about how much money he would have to spend to cure his son, how he had lost all hope for him, and how sad he was feeling. Remorse came to Jung, and he thought, I brought this upon myself. It's really not that bad. At the time he was having fits whenever he tried to learn Latin. As soon as he picked up the Latin book, the fit would begin, and he would fall down on the floor. When Jung realized what was happening, he went to his room with the resolve, I brought this disease upon myself, so I am going to cure it. He sat in his chair and picked up the Latin book. The fit started, but he thought, no, this time I am going to read Latin. It was probably his udana, one of his vital breaths, that picked him up and threw him from his chair. He lay flat and shivered for a while, then got back up in his seat and picked up the book again. Once again the udana came, but he sat firm. A third and a fourth time the crisis started, but he held his position. At last he got over it and had no more fits. Many of us do the same thing, but only a few of us can get free of the syndrome after it becomes ingrained the way Jung did. I know I do it. It's such a great joy that all of you suffer for my sake. With so many attentive friends, a heart attack is a kind of performance. So when you have such a realization, even disease can be seen as a sport. Disease, though, is your own game. You can do what you like up to the point of no return. But how about something thrust upon you, like poverty? There are certain sects in the Catholic Church whose members take a vow of poverty. Indian sannyasis also take such a vow. When you accept a life of poverty as part of your game, then you enjoy it. Jalaluddin Rumi said, poverty is my pride and obscurity my refuge. Isn't it beautiful? Once on the banks of the Ganges in the foothills of the Himalayas, Nataraja Guru and I went for a walk. We came upon a sannyasi's hut. Such huts are not made by the renunciates themselves. They take their advice from the book of Bhartrhari, which says a sannyasin lives like a snake, which makes no hole of its own. It goes into a hole made by a rat, eats the rat, and makes the hole its home. From Kolkata to the Himalayas, all kinds of sannyasis live in huts on the banks of the Ganges, which were put there through the works of a sannyasin called Kali Kambliwala. His name means one who has merely a blanket, nothing else. He made the paths and bridges and arranged for shelters and food along the entire pilgrimage route. Kali Kambliwala adhered to his own vow of total poverty, but he was the richest of all. He took it all as a sport, a game. He set up a trust to which people donate from all over India to provide for any poor seekers who go there. A sannyasin can go into a hut and take it as a refuge given to him by the kindness of others. When he leaves, another will come along to occupy it. We approached such a hut one evening as the sun was setting. It was very beautiful. All that was heard was the sound of the Ganges, like a liquid chanting of Om. Huge mountain peaks cast their shadows over the valleys. The last golden rays of the sun were falling on the cottage, in front of which a man sat in meditation, listening to the gurgling of the river. Guru and I stood there. There was total silence for some time. Then Guru looked at me, and I knew he wanted to go to that man. It was like entering into a sanctum of great peace, great joy. It was not anything exciting. It was a joy which was so peaceful and calm. Guru slowly walked towards the hut. I followed. We came quite close to the sannyasin. He opened his eyes and stood up. Without any introduction, he came and prostrated himself before Guru. He had nothing to offer as a seat other than the plank of wood on which he had been sitting. He gave that to Guru and brought a small piece of towel for me to sit on. Then he asked us to sit. We sat. He was not in any hurry to find out who we were. He did not ask our names or where we came from. He just showed his hands and we sat. The man took his kamandalu, walked to the Ganges, filled it with water, and brought it to Guru. Guru held out his hands and drank. He gave water to me and I drank. Then he just sat down. The silence was such that after taking the cool, refreshing water of the Ganges, we all became silent. It slowly became dark as the sunset progressed. After a little while, Guru got up. The man once again touched Guru's feet. I gave my salutations, and we just walked away. He didn't give us any sweets or delicious food, no cozy seats, only just a plank of wood and Ganges water. But that was enough to remember our meeting for the rest of our lives. For some reason, we measure poverty by saying he has no television, so he must be very poor. I think he is so rich. He has the whole world, the sky above with all its stars, the sun and the moon, the pure water of the Ganges, the time of all eternity is his. He has no master, no servant, no one to say, today you have to do this much work. He doesn't even have to bother about his food. One day, when it so chances, he will walk to a nearby center and stand in line with others. There will be a basket of bread there, which is again and again filled. He will also receive a bowl of dal and 4 chapatis, which he will take home. He will eat 1 chapati with the dal and save the rest. He doesn't want to have to walk the same distance again, right away. The next day he will go to the Ganges and bring some water. He will put 1 chapati in it to soak. Then he will eat it and drink the water. He has no income tax returns, no one to report to in any way. Only when you experience this kind of life can you understand the word Leela. Poverty, disease, death. What is there more beautiful than death? Once you know what death is and how beautiful it is, it gives you no pain. It only takes the pain away, totally. It is so efficient. It takes not only your pain, but all your problems completely away. Yet people are afraid of it. Death is such a wondrous thing. There is nothing to be afraid of. So we have covered how to deal with pain, how to deal with adversaries, as in football, and how to deal with death. The rest are all in your imagination. When you cry, I suppose your tear ducts are in need of stimulation. James Lange's theory says, you are sad because you cry, and afraid because you tremble. Of course, there are plenty of counter-theories, but no one has yet come up with anything satisfactory. So what is known, yet to be known, and the unknown make up the whole thing, the word, the mind, and prana. These constitute everything other than the self, what is called the non-self. The known makes a kind of shield. It becomes a screen against what is not known. What you desire to know causes all the restlessness, and the unknown is what frightens you. Still, these three can be made tools for happiness, too. What is known can make you happy because you know it. The desire to know allows for hope and gives life its promise. And what a great relief it is that you don't know a lot of things. You can look at it this way also. All that is required is agave. If you know all this, then you become very happy. It's not a great secret. It's really a very simple verse. Everyone says you should resolve everything. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, that is the one thing you should not do. Thinking you know is a way of suppressing the beneficent flow of life. Once you resolve and make up your mind, things go against you, and you have all the troubles in the world. The Rishi's advice is, don't resolve, just be free, feel free. Why should you resolve when you know you are not the master of anything? Once a fellow went to a great king and asked for a favor. The king told him, come back tomorrow. The man started dancing with joy, calling out, come on, all you people, come out and celebrate. The king said, what do you mean by that? He answered, people do not know who you are. Everyone is looking for God, but they don't know that you are God. God? Sure. Otherwise, how could you say, for me to come tomorrow? How do you know that tomorrow I will be alive and you will be as well? If you are so sure about it, you must know everything. You must be the omniscient one. So don't resolve means we do not know how it is going to be. So just let it be, let it go. A whole chapter of the Brihadaranyaka is devoted to attaining the great freedom of knowing all. What is this meditation? The meditation is to know that there is a great paradox happening. Light is opposed to darkness. Light and darkness cannot be together. The qualityless and what has quality cannot be together. Yet light and darkness do come together in relative degrees. It is not an impossibility. We live in the midst of the paradox that light and darkness coexist and are interlaced. In the same way, the absolute and the relative are not in two places. They coexist in the very same place. The transient and the intransient are not two. They are also interlaced. Because light and darkness make a kind of arrangement between them, forms appear. Forms are delineated by differences in light and dark areas. Opposites make many kinds of projections of forms. For instance, how do you appreciate the love shown to you? Because you have experienced hatred, and compared to that, love is great. So the whole creation is based on paradox. When you are lopsided and see only one side and not the other, you don't truly understand the game. You need to balance yourself at the neutral place where the two meet. In the right eye is Indra, the master of the senses, and in the left eye is Viraj, the principle of sensation. They divide and then synchronize in the cavity of the heart. It is exactly like the copulation of a man and a woman. They are so completely lost in each other that there is no separate identity of man or woman. There is no other. There is only the pure joy of oneness, unition. In that unition is hita, that which you like. Hita is considered to be a system of nerves as fine as a single hair split into its thousandth part. It is very subtle, but it fills your whole system, extending in all directions, like a spherical radiation of light. It goes to the east, west, north, south, above and below, in all directions. If you close off all the avenues by which you are distracted, and your mind asks, what next? You say, nothing next. Neti, not this, not this. Never mind. After a time you come to a stillness everywhere. On all sides you are filled with the great stillness, that overwhelming, all-pervading stillness. Do not try to give it a name. What operates then is your hita, what you like most. The hita is affected by the blood, where the residual karma is said to be located. I was wondering how this could be, and then I found a reference in McGlot's Embodiments of Mind to Aristotle, who had before him Hippocrates. They spoke of the same thing. From their time to 1921, it was believed that you think with your blood. And how does it work? What you are and what you are going to be are always in your blood. This karma comes again and again to afflict your hita, causing ahita, what you don't like. Whenever ahita comes, you should not let it prevail upon you. You should say, neti, neti, not that, not that. In this way you can become absolutely doubtless about your hita. In other words, what you like to be or what makes you happy. If you meditate that you are all light and all happiness, no one can keep you from it. This combination of Viraj and Indra brings you the highest happiness, which is becoming one with the total. Remain in it. How about your hands and legs moving, your lungs breathing, and your senses functioning? These never cease, but you can just say, I am not that. You experience everything, but there is a silence in it. You are not restraining or restricting, just allowing things to be. At the same time, your mind is in a state of total reflection. This brings you what Narayana Guru calls the state of all-knowingness. When you know everything, you are that. What is seeming to be, like talking, walking and so on, it's all leela, sport. Putting these together, we get the beautiful gist of this wonderful verse. And the free translation of verse 71 is, no one remains established forever in a state of sameness. The process of becoming is ongoing, and all are subjected to this beginningless sport of the divine. When all this is known in its entirety, one becomes happy beyond measure.